Hey friend, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast for women who want to learn how to live an intentional life or build their creative business. I'll be giving you my very best business tips, bringing you interesting guests, giving you a daily dose of Jesus, and I'm committed to always keeping it real. Grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. I'm so honored that you're here. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to the podcast. This is podcast episode number 130, and I'm super excited because today I am introducing you all to somebody who is so near and dear to my heart. This is my project manager, Jenna Kenyon. And I know if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see her, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you can pay close attention to how adorable her hair is. So, Jenna, I'm so glad you're here. We've been trying to do this for a minute. Like, your boss needs to be a little bit easier on you and give you some time for interviews and whatnot.
Man, she's the worst, doesn't she?
I know. She just stinks. But we're going to talk today about all the things that Jenna does as the executive project manager here at Team Allwood and kind of how we interact together. We've gotten a lot of questions about this because, Jenna, how long have you been my project manager now? For a year-ish?
Almost a year and a half, I think.
Awesome.
Has it really been that long?
Gosh, time flies when we're having fun. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's been about a year and a half.
Okay, awesome. Okay. And so we get lots of questions about what does she do as an executive project manager? Like, what does that look like? What are her, all the things? And so we're going to talk about that. And I'm excited. It should be super fun. So first, I'm going to share with you just the quickest review that we have over on iTunes, because I like to give shouts out to my people who they're just hustling. They're trying to get their businesses off the ground. So this is from Kirsty of Bonhomie Design. And she said, I can't even express how grateful I am to have stumbled across the podcast. I've been in business for 10 years, but have not been taking it seriously. I'm a single mom. I'm working a 9 to 5, and this is the year to make or break my business. And so, Christy from Bonhomie Designs, I just pray a blessing over you and your business. I pray for handfuls on purpose from God. I pray that everything you set your hand to would be successful in your business, and that God would give you great dreams and visions just to really make it this year in the year 2019. And so, thank you so much, Kirsty, for leaving that podcast review. And if you get a chance, friends, go over to Bonhomie Design and give her some love. So, all right, Jenna. All right, let's chat. This is going to be fun. Okay, so first question. And so here, let's lay this out, the podcast out. So Mel, who is also on Team Allwood, has laid out all of the podcast questions. And so you're supposed to ask me a question, and then I'm supposed to ask you a question. You have the questions up in front of you?
I do.
Okay, here's where truth totally comes out. You keep me absolutely straight and sane. And so see how it says Jenna with a question. Does that mean I ask you the question or you ask me the question?
I have to ask you that question.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You get to start then.
I get to start.
Thank you, Nell, for laying this out so perfectly. Okay, go.
Okay. How did you know that you were ready to add a project manager to our team?
Oh, okay.
Or to Team Allwood, your team.
Okay. So Stu McLaren is a mentor of mine, also a friend. Love him. I've taken his tribe course. And him and I were having a conversation about where I was having so much stress in the company and how I was still feeling super overwhelmed. And this was probably a year and a half to 2 years ago. And trying to figure out what do I need? Do I need better systems? Do I need a better, what the heck do I need? He's like, Jen, you need a project manager. And I'm like, what? He's like, you need a project manager. I did not even know what that was, basically, which is why I think this podcast episode is brilliant for us to do for other people. But essentially, he was saying you need somebody that kind of has all the eyeballs on your business, who's your number two, who can see everything from a higher level and then kind of delegate out for you. Because basically, he was saying at that point, I was still way too much in the weeds, which is the term we used to use in the restaurant for when you can't even see straight because you're so busy. And I was totally in the weeds. So I knew that I was ready for a project manager when somebody pointed it out to me. And then I was like, holy smokes, of course that's what I need. And so I think the fact that I couldn't even I felt like I wasn't keeping my head above water on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was still in that place in the business, Jenna, where I had to think about all the things from all the different angles. And it was kind of handicapping me in a way because I knew that me still trying to think about hiring this person or getting this email launch ready to go, that was taking me away from my zone of genius. And my zone of genius is really small, as you know, Jenna. So there's there's not a lot I'm really good at. But while I was doing all the stuff I wasn't good at, I was neglecting the stuff that I am good at, which is, really thinking about things and being creative and building relationship with our clients. And so a project manager, I knew when he pointed it out to me, oh my gosh, that's what I need. Is that a good answer? How'd I do?
Yeah. Nailed it.
Nailed it. Okay. So now I get to ask you. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jenna, what does your job as executive project manager entail? And what skills did you bring to this position? Dun, dun, dun. All right. What do you do?
So I liken this to, the guy at the circus who spins the plates on the long sticks?
Dun, 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 dun.
That's what I do.
You know I can do that? I can totally do circus music.
Can you juggle?
I can't juggle, but I can do a squirrel noise, right?
What is it? Let me hear it.
Okay. All right.
What?
Actually, that's a chipmunk. Okay. One more time. Okay. So Chris, the podcast editor right now is like, oh my God, do I take that out or do I leave that in? I don't care, Chris. This is one of those few things that are in my zone of genius.
I was going to say, there we go. We're in your zone of genius. Here we are.
Okay. So back to the circus. So you're the circus plate girl.
Yeah. So I keep all the plates spinning. So from a bird's eye perspective, we work with, let's see, how many people do we have on our team now? We have 6 team members. And then we have, is that right?
We have 7. We have
7 team members. So
we have all of our contractors.
And we have all of our contractors, which is like another 6 or 7 people, kind of depending on the day.
Yes.
So my kind of role is to figure out, get the big level ideas from you, and then figure out what that's going to look like from a logistical perspective, break it up into chunks, like who do I need to bring into this project, and then delegate it out from there. So where you get the big ideas and, you say, well, I want to do this, and then I just make it happen.
That is it in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
And so this is like the story of my life. Jenna, I've got an idea and I just got to get it out of my head. Like how many conversations do we have that start with that? And then you take that idea and then you actually make it happen. And what's always shocking is when you come back to me and you're like, okay, so you said you wanted blah, 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 and I've done this. And I'm like, wait a second. Oh my gosh. Because when it was just me, like I would have the idea and then maybe parts of it we'd be able to initiate, but like I could never get it like sometimes off the start block. You know what I mean?
I think sometimes it catches you off guard because I think sometimes you say, hey, I have this idea. And then I hear, Jenna, let's do this. But I think you're thinking like, hey, let's talk about this. Like maybe we could do it. And then I'm like, okay, it's done. And you're like, wait.
This is also what happens in my marriage, just so you know. Because like I'll say something and then what Jason hears is because I am a verbal processor. So everything comes out of my face and that is not good. Also really weird when you're an introvert to be a verbal processor. So everything comes out of my face. And then what he hears is this is what she wants done, even as my husband and his like love language is he just loves serving and he loves, supporting me. And so I'll just say, oh, I wish I had a, cup of coffee. And then a cup of coffee like magically appears. And I didn't actually want the cup of coffee. It's just, I said the cup of coffee and he makes it happen. And
I would die right now if Jason walked into your office with a cup of coffee.
I would too. He is right now. Well, okay. So all 4 kids left the house today, Jenna, for school. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And so they're all out the door first day of school. So my man is golfing like every day, the rest of the week. I think our CFO has a golf tee time. And I'm like, go to the glory of God because he's taking care of all the work things and all the kid things all summer long. So
good for him.
Perfect. All right. Is it your turn?
Well, I wasn't done answering that one. You want me to finish?
Oh, yes. No, keep going. Yeah.
So what skills so I think this is probably going to be an important one. Like if you are looking for your own project manager, like what do you need to look for? Like because of my skill set.
Right.
So I think that one of the things that's really helpful is just organizational from an organizational standpoint. I think understanding like processes and efficiency is also really important because, that was like a large chunk of what I did when I kind of first came on board was start to get things transitioned into like better processes. Because when it was just you and Dick, it was a lot of like manual stuff. And so I think, that first kind of 6 months that I was on board was a lot of automation and the back end stuff.
Yes.
So I think that's really huge. And then I think just the ability to kind of be able to juggle a lot of different things at a lot of different times. Because right now, I've got about 6 different irons in the kettle. And so you got to be able to kind of be able to manage all of those, also putting out fires that are popping up,
right. And when
on a day-to-day basis.
6 different like irons in the fire, she's not talking about like things on her to-do list that have to happen today, like an email to so-and-so. She's talking about huge projects that are coming down the pipe. At Team Allwood, we're reopening Inner Circle in September. We have our conference that will be being announced very soon. The book launch, like you've got it's all in your lap.
The big ones. Yep.
Yeah. And so I agree with you so much. If somebody's looking for a project manager, I would really suggest that it's somebody that is very detail oriented, very good with, breaking things down, very good at managing their own time. Because the worst thing that could ever happen would be for you to hire a project manager that you had to manage. I mean, that defeats the whole purpose. You know what I mean? And so there has never been one time in a year and a half where I'm like, so, hey, Jenna, what are you working on today? Like that would never even come out of my face. Do you know what I mean? You don't even ever have to worry about that. But I think it's super important too, if you're a creative person and listening to the podcast, that you understand you want somebody super opposite of you. Like if Jenna was like this creative, who had squirrel syndrome too, like we would be a hot, stinking mess up in here. Thank you. She's not that way. But I also think it's super important to bring up the fact that if you're going to have a project manager, you're going to work really closely with them. It has to be somebody you like. Yeah. It would be miserable if I didn't like you. Right? I think I drive you to drink. I think I drive you nuts.
Only some days.
But I think you love me.
I love you.
Okay. Thank you. I love you too. So yeah, the skills are really important, but also just the fact that knowing you're going to be working closely with this person. So it better be somebody who you don't mind talking to on a daily basis all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. All right. Okay. Is it my turn?
My turn. No, it's my turn. You ready?
Oh, it's your turn. Go.
What was the hardest part about bringing on a project manager?
Oh, that's easy breezy. Just like dumping it all in your lap. It sounds really easy and then it's way harder. Example. When you're like, we need to send out an email and I'm like, well, let me see that email before you send it. And then I look at the email and I'm like, well, I wouldn't have said this exactly like this. And I would reword this. And could you add this word in here? And that doesn't really sound like me. And then you come back and say, Jennifer, is this really the best use of your time? And I'm like, no, it's not, but I'm having a hard time. It's like I was able to hand over the majority of the stuff, but there was some stuff that when it came to handing it over to Jenna, I was like half handing it. I was like putting it out halfway, but I'm like, but I still want a lot of control here. But then what I realized the longer we've been doing this is the more I hand over to you, the more freeing it really is for me. And like we just came off of an Inner Circle launch where we had people that were on the wait list, and it was the last time people could get in for $47 before we reopen in September. And I was so hands off on that, wasn't I, Jenna? Because I was knee deep in the book writing. Like I literally, you took care of 100% of it. All the emails, all the scheduling.
Which that felt like such a big win for me, because I feel like that's my job, is to be able to take all of those things off of your plate so that you can focus on the higher level things and the things that are really a good use of your time. Yeah. And so that felt like a big win for me, that one. And I would totally agree with.
And I hope that somebody listening doesn't think it's because I don't want to do anything, because that is not it. But I think Jenna has a really good, first of all, she really understands the vision of what we're trying to do at Team Allwood, which is to really help mostly female, but not all, small business owners like build their social media and make more money so that they can change their family and, change their family's lives. And so she has a really good understanding of that. And she knows that I'm probably our biggest handicap if I keep trying to keep everything to myself, and so I just love that you like see the bigger picture, and that by you taking those things off of my lap, it's not like I'm out just in the pool floating around all day, every day. It's that then I'm now focusing on the other things that are coming down the pipe that will help make sure we all still have jobs. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is I have to worry about, what's coming up in the future. And you're really worrying for me about the day-to-day things and really implementing the things that we've been talking about for a while. So but I do think that was the hardest part of me handing things over. Do you agree? Do you think that's what I struggled with the
100%.
most?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it just was, for so long you had done it all yourself. So it was so second nature for me to say, just give it to me and let me handle it. Because you were like, but it's like my baby.
It is.
And I'm like, just let me do it. And so I think there was, I don't know, there was like we kind of had there
was some tension.
There was a little bit of tension at one point late summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was in Canada. Actually, I remember this. And I was standing out in the lobby taking a call for you. And you're like, maybe we were Voxering, which is where we have our 90% of our relationship. But you were like, I just don't know if this is the best use of your time. Like at some point, Jennifer, you're going to have to trust me that you hired me to do this job and actually let me do my job. Mm-hmm. And then I was getting all butthurt. And the reason I say that is because every day I'm like looking for an opportunity to use the word butthurt in a sentence.
There you go.
It's not like a cuss word, but it's on the edge, Jenna. And so
you're such a dangerous lady. You are.
I just feel good that I just got to throw it in there somewhere. But I do remember that conversation where you were kind of like, like kind of slapping me on the fingers a little bit and being like, this is why you hired me. You're not letting me do what you hired me to do. And I was like, wait a minute. Yes, I am. And then I was like, oh, but maybe I'm really not. And so it was a good conversation. It needed to happen.
Yeah, it totally did. And I feel like we came out on the other end of that because from my side of it, I was like, I felt, even though you weren't like, what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? I still felt micromanaged because I felt like I didn't have the authority freedom. Yeah. I wasn't empowered to just, send an email out if I needed to. And so it felt like every step I took had to be monitored. And, I'm as an Enneagram 8, like, I don't like to feel like I don't have power and authority.
Right.
So that was like frustrating for me because I'm like, you wanted me to do this job. Like now you have to let me do it. I can't do the things you want me to do if you still have me in shackles. And so I think it was really good. So we did have like some tension there for a little bit where it was like,
And part of my tension was knowing that, because for a long time it had been just Vicki and I in the business. And then since business kind of quadrupled, 2 years ago, it was like we added all these other full-time employees to the business really quickly. And knowing that, and Vicki still plays such an integral role here at Team Allwood, but knowing that now you're my number 2, it was kind of like, I'm putting all my eggs in Jenna's basket. And that feels really vulnerable to be like, okay, I'm trusting that this girl isn't going to screw me over, take everything, here at Team Allwood and run somewhere else with it. Like I'm putting a lot of trust into her as a human being and into what she's doing in this position. And it just felt like super vulnerable. And then I'm like, but how is this any different than a marriage? You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, we're like kind of, that's probably a really bad analogy, isn't it? But all my eggs are in my husband's basket.
Married, Jennifer, I am taken. All right.
I'm sorry. But that's, what I mean? It's like, I'm trusting that this is, and because the only reason I think right now that this position works is because I have put all the eggs in your basket in terms of this position. I'm like, you do with it what you want. I've got, the stuff I'm working on. You've got the stuff you're working on. And there's a lot of trust that goes with that.
Yeah, so, for sure. A lot of trust.
Thank you for doing your job.
Thank you for trusting me to do my job.
Yes. So I think it's my turn. So the question is, what's it like working for me? What do I do well as your boss? And what do I not do so great? Oh, that's fun. I will not hold this answer against you. You can be 100% honest. We have zero secrets.
I really have zero bad things to say. So legit, I tell everybody that I talk to about you and kind of my job and what I do, that legitimately, like you and Jason are the best bosses that I have ever had.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to make me cry. Thanks, honey.
Please don't cry. Because I'm a sympathy crier. And if you cry, then I will cry.
Same. Yeah.
So I feel like you are always receptive to, new ideas and things that I want to try and, figure out in terms to make our team like work better together and processes more efficient and that kind of stuff. Even though sometimes a little bit you fight me on it and you're like, but it's different. And I'm like, but it's going to be good. And then usually it does work out. I mean, occasionally we have some things that bust, but I feel like for the most part, you're pretty receptive and like open to trying those things. And I think just from like a personal standpoint, you're just so full of grace and understanding that like life happens and everybody on our team has lives and things and going on outside of this job. And so, having, somebody in your corner who really gets it and doesn't hold it against you. And, you've got things going on in your personal life. Like it's invaluable. I mean, you can't,
And so for people who are wondering, because I know we'll get questions asking us, Jenna, and I hope that you don't care that I share this, but our employee positions are full-time salaried positions. So we're not tracking your hours. We're not like, what are you working today? We just are trusting that you're a grown up and that you'll get the job done. And one of the reasons I love that is because I was even writing about this in the book this week. When I worked for corporate America, I had to work from 9 to 5. And so even if it was 4:30, Jenna, and my job was done, I still had to sit there and like stare at the clock and waste time until 5 o'clock. And it drove me absolutely batty because not my fault I'm faster than the rest of these people. Like I got my crap done. Let me get out of here. And so I've always like in my head wanted to give the people who work for me like that freedom. Like, here's what I need you to do for us. I don't care how you get it done. And if you're working at 3 a.m, God bless it. I will be sound asleep, but you do what you want to do. When your kids have something, you don't even need to tell me. Just live your life. I mean, we'd never see each other because we're in other, opposite states. I think we'll talk about that in a minute, but here's the job, Jenna. You do the job. I don't care when you do the job. And then that to me makes my heart so happy. So I'm so glad that is really a blessing to you as well. Cause I want this to be something you enjoy doing for a long, long, long time.
For sure. Yeah. And we have that approach with everybody on our team. Like when I'm, talking with new candidates for jobs and they talk about like, what's the typical day or out. And I'm like, look, some people work better at 11 o'clock at night. We've got a couple of night owls on our team.
Yes, we do.
We've got some morning people on our team. And so like, we're not trying to lock you down into something that's going to go against what is where you work best, you know? And so I think that is so huge. And it's like such a, when you have something that can be flexible. I mean, obviously some jobs you can't be that flexible, but for our specific situation, if you've got the ability to give your team flexibility like that, I think it pays you back tenfold because not only are you keeping your employees happy, but they're working when they're working best, which is going to lead to better productivity and just overall, I think general culture. And I think it's just, it's huge. And it's it costs nothing for you to do that. You know what I mean? And like, just kind of give people the freedom to run their own lives. And I think, there's a certain element when you're onboarding new people, you have to look for people who are good with time management and who are responsible for that kind of stuff. I mean, you've got to protect yourself on the front end, but I think if you can do that and then just give people the freedom to just do their job. And I always say, I don't want to babysit you. Nobody likes to be micromanaged. I don't like to micromanage. Right. So do your thing. And if it's working, it's working. And that's it. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated, I think. So
yes. And it makes life easier for Jason and I. And I think it makes life easier for you guys that we're just like, here's your job. Here's what we expect of you, big overarching picture. And then you figure out how to get it done. And so I'm glad that you love that flexibility. So now you can tell them what's the worst part about working for me. I don't care.
Oh,
I go squirrel a lot.
You do go squirrel a lot.
I forget about things that I tell you and I'll ask you to do the same thing like over and over. I know this. Or not over and over, but I'll be like, did I already tell you? And you'll be like, yes, 100 times. I'm like, oh, okay.
No, I think the one thing that is, and I really had, when I was reviewing these questions, I had to dig deep for this because really there's not a lot of like bad stuff.
Oh,
but the one thing that sometimes leads me a lot of frustration is like, you're so used to working last minute. And we were just talking about this yesterday because we're like 4 weeks out from this next launch. And I'm like, this is crunch time. And you're like, what? We're like a month away. And I'm like, exactly. So it like,
girl, I would have used to have been doing this 48 hours prior. Like you're 4 weeks ahead of me. And I'm like, dang, Jenna's early. And you're like, oh no, I'm not early. I'm right on time.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's like a little bit, cause I'll have kind of all of these, I've got my cards lined up just right. And, I got this, it's all flowing. At this point, launches are becoming like a well-oiled machine, which they should. Yes. But then you always at the last minute are like, well, what if we do this? And I'm like, here we go. Just going to jack up everything I did in the last 4 weeks.
And then that is an interesting thing when that happens, because as a creative and knowing like how you are personality wise and how I am personality wise, I'm always like, crap, I want to tell Jenna I have this idea. And it's not like I'm scared you're going to be mad at me, but it's like, as my project manager, I know that you have a lot of opinions. And I'm like, and I don't want to pull the, because I said I want to do it card, because I want her buy-in. Like, I really want you to really want to do some of my harebrained last minute crazy ideas, because as a creative, I get a million of those. Like, and you're thinking about like launches 4 weeks in advance, but usually like I think about them the night before. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so tomorrow's the day. Guess I need to wrap my head around it. And so then all of a sudden I'm, have gone from book writing mode to, now it's launch mode. And so then when I really like start thinking about it, I'm like, I wonder what would happen if we tried this. And then I'm like, crap, Jenna's going to hate that idea. Do I keep it to myself or do I go ahead and tell it to her? So then I'm like kind of tiptoeing into my Voxer and I'm like, hey,
hey, it's me.
I'm like, how can I warm her up to this idea with a funny GIF first? And so and then I'm like, okay, and here's and I know what you're going to say, but here's what I'm thinking. And so I think we're figuring out how to do that. I'm figuring out that you need a lot of advance notice and you're figuring out but she still has last minute drama stuff that she's going to probably throw in here. And I think you're just getting more used to knowing that that's going to happen. And then I'm getting more used to knowing that you're probably going to be like, no, Jennifer, we can't do this. But every once in a while, you're going to be like, okay, you know what? I kind of like that idea. And then I'm going to be like, yes, I won her over with my 2 seconds of brilliance today.
So I think that there has to be there are for sure times where I'm like, no, it's just not going to happen. I can't pull a team of 4 people together in the next 6 hours to make this happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I think that I feel like I try to do a pretty good job of when you have those ideas, just pulling out all the stops to make them happen. Because
100% you do. You stand on your head and spin the plates. You do. And I appreciate you so much.
Because a lot of times, they are good ideas.
But they're just really last minute.
Really last minute. And the bigger that our launches get, the more, we've got web teams and copywriters. And so it's harder to kind of get all of those.
Jenna, you should be married to me for real. Jason last night, I know he was like, I want to kill my wife because we needed to get all the kids to bed, but I wanted to do these pictures of, the night before school. And we're all outside at 8:00 at night when Ari's bedtime is clearly 8:30 or she falls off the rails. And I'm making them do all these photos and hold up these chalkboards. And we had graduation gowns that I ordered 2 days ago off Amazon. And it is this is my life. And I know thank you for just always being on board. Cause I know he's thinking the same thing. This woman, I love her, but my Lord, she drives me to drink. I know you're both thinking the same thing. Thank you for loving me. Yeah. It's your question.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah. What do you wish you had known when you started building a team, and what might you have done differently?
So here is how we are wired so different. I didn't really look at the questions at all before we got on this podcast, and you did. And here is Exhibit A to all of our listeners. So what do I wish I had known when I started building a team? Okay. I think what I wish I would have done differently, could I rephrase the question that Nell gave me, is I wish I would have built a team so much earlier. And I know that what most people will say when their business is, in the growing stages is I can't afford to hire people. And I said that for a long time until I started really noticing how angry I was getting just by opening up my inbox every day and how I was feeling like I can't, because I always filter decisions in my business through the lens of if it's also going to be something that really affects my family in a positive way, then I need to do this. So what I found 5 or 6 years ago when I hired Vicky was, the email was just stealing a lot of my peace. It was stealing a lot of my time. I was having to be answering emails in the evening when I should be playing sorry with my kids, kicking their butt, always being the color red. And, and so there was that sort of thing, but I felt like it was just draining me. And so then that's why I finally hired somebody just to start out with doing emails and customer service. And then it was holy crap, why didn't I do this a long time earlier? And that's how I feel about every position on the team. Mm-hmm. Why didn't I do this earlier? And usually you didn't do it earlier because you don't even know half the time what you don't know, and you don't even know what you need. And there is that dollar thing, can we really afford a new person? Right. The truth of the matter is we've never hired somebody and our revenue gone down.
Right.
It just if the person's doing the job they were hired to do, they're always bringing something to the table. Nell, for instance, we have hired her to really kick butt with this podcast. And so she's got the downloads to almost 1 million right now. I mean, that's incredible, right? That's incredible. Yeah. And so while that may not be dollars associated, we're not getting paid for those downloads, but a lot of those podcast listeners are joining my coaching group. And so there is revenue coming out of it. And so I wish that I just had this aha moment earlier on that hiring people was going to give me so much more freedom in the business and so much more creative freedom. And I wish that I just had done it all sooner. That's probably my best answer.
I have something to add too for that.
Yeah.
So so I was working, and we didn't talk about this at all, but I was working with you prior to becoming full-time as your project manager, as on like a hourly contract basis,
yes, you were.
Just with like some additional VA help. And so there was already a small team existing. So it was you, Vicky, a VA, and then myself.
Yes.
And so when you had asked me to come on full-time project management, I was like, yes, all in, let's do it. And then it was an uphill battle with trying to establish myself as, a manager, for lack of a better term, or like an authority with
the other contractors.
With the team that I had, previously been working with as a peer.
Yes.
And so that was a little bit of a learning experience, I think, for both of us, in terms of like setting me up for success to be able to transition into this.
Thank you for reminding me of how I really stunk the big one on that one.
I love you, but you really did.
I know I did, because but it's one of those things too that I didn't know what I didn't know. And while I knew that my project manager was supposed to be my number 2, I didn't really know what that meant until we really got you into the job. And then I was like, oh yeah, she definitely is going to have to be the number 2 in terms of all my ideas go to her, and then they all go out from her. Like we actually have an org chart. It's like Jason and I at the top, and then we go skinny to Jenna, and then we go wide with all the other people. Because the management of all the other people is not what I'm good at and not what I want to do. But what I did terrible is really explaining to all those other people what your new position would be, and that they were still just as important as they were, 10 minutes ago, but that we were just going to have kind of a different hierarchy of things. And you're right. That was really a time where I did not do a good job, and I did not set you up for success, or me or our team. And in retrospect, I wish I could have done that so much better.
You know what, though? Honestly, I think, everything's a learning experience. And so I feel like we could totally help somebody else out with that whole situation. Because that was tough. I mean, it was tough on me, like, from a professional perspective, but also just emotionally draining, because I felt like I was just like uphill in mud. I couldn't get anywhere because I couldn't get the buy-in from everybody.
Right. Because basically the people that you used to be like, you were kind of linking arms and you're all working for Jen together. Now you were kind of in charge of what they were doing, and they kind of answer to you for some things. And so that was difficult, and I did a terrible job of setting you up for that. But we have come out of that, and we learn. And if somebody's listening right now and they're like, I'm scared to hire someone because I'm afraid that I'm going to run into issues, drama, and it's not going to go smooth. And I'll just save you wondering. That is exactly the truth. And you'll learn so much through the experience. And, and so thank you for just hanging in there through, all of that. And now we're squared away, and look at us. Look at us. Okay. So Nell wants to know from both of us, what's your Enneagram number? I'm a 3.
I'm an 8.
I'm trying to remember. Tell me a little bit about an 8.
The challenger.
Oh, that is so right. Yes.
I'm direct. I am a very strong personality.
Yes.
Can somewhat be intimidating to people. Especially, I think I'm very intimidating to 3s, I think.
Yeah, and I'm a 3, which is why I tiptoe into my Voxer whenever I have ideas. So as an Enneagram 3, I'm a performer, which means I hate that word, by the way. I hate being an Enneagram 3. It basically just means that it is super important for me to do something super big that affects other people with my life, which creates a whole lot of internal stress to constantly feel like I have to be at my best and improving myself. And so, that's my Enneagram 3. So next question is, what advice would you give to someone who's hiring a project manager or someone who wants to be a project manager?
So I think from like somebody hiring a project manager, be prepared to give up some control. Be prepared to give them the authority to be able to kind of make decisions and, executive calls throughout the day. Be prepared to give them, basically access to like your whole life and your business. Because,
you've got all the things, all the numbers, all the passwords, all the codes, all the cards, all the rights, all the things. Yeah.
Do you remember that one time I was doing something in your Amazon influencer shop and you were like, how did you know that I ordered that? And I'm like, well, I had to get in your influencer shop to add it to your store. And you're like, Jason, don't put anything.
I'm like, don't you dare put anything weird in our Amazon, because Jenna will see it all.
Yeah, you got to be
I'm like, Team, who just logged in? I just got something weird from Dropbox. Who just logged into my Dropbox? And you're like, oh, it was me. Again, I'm like, Jason, don't ever take any weird pictures on my phone because every picture automatically goes to my Dropbox, and Jenna's in my Dropbox, and she has the keys to the kingdom.
I do. So you got to be prepared for that.
I'm always also telling him, though, that he can never take bad pictures with my phone because then he would absolutely ruin any chance I have of running for president one day.
Oh, that's good.
I know, as if that's even
most likely scenario. After that launch.
Yeah, but you're right. And probably people don't need to give as much access as what we've given to you. And certainly I would never suggest that in the beginning.
No.
But I know, you're a woman of faith, you're a woman of prayer. I, have utmost confidence in the position that you're doing. But yeah, I think, and so from the other end of that, just be prepared to know you're going to give up some stuff in order to really make the project manager work to the best of his or her ability. So Nell wants to know how many times we've met in real life.
3 times?
I was thinking 3 too. So we did our team meeting in Fort Lauderdale last year. You were here for the entire Equipped conference in Kansas City, and you came for a meeting for us to prepare for the Equipped conference. And then our team is getting ready to do our end of the year team meeting because we are doing these every year. We're going to be in Arizona as a team. Did you know, by the way, that I got you guys the really pretty rooms that back up to the mountains?
Ooh.
I know. I had Vicky switch all of your rooms. I'm like, just switch everybody's rooms so that we all have like the good view.
See, you're so good, despite what everybody says.
Well, I'm like, I can't have a good view and them have crap views. So we're all going to have good views. So we'll see each other again then. And then I think
we'll be in Nashville together in October.
We'll be in Nashville in October. We'll see each other in November. I think we're going to fly the whole team in for our Creators Roadmap launch in January. So we'll see you then as well. And so you live in Ohio and I live in Kansas City for those people who don't know. So yeah, it's not like we're right up the street from one another. So her last question is so funny to me. How many times do you two talk in one day?
I literally don't even know how to answer this.
I don't either. Okay, so I think it's important for our listeners to know my preferred method of communication is Voxer. And so if you don't know what Voxer is, it's a free app.
It's also important for the listeners to know that is not my preferred method of communication.
Right. But she does my preferred method of communication because I got her the good room in Arizona overlooking the mountains.
We make it work.
We do.
Sometimes I love Voxer. I say like, those machines that like tennis players used to train where it like shoots the balls out at like different directions at different speeds, that you're the tennis machine and I'm over there just like trying to catch the balls from like Voxer, email, Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs.
Because I'll see something on Instagram. I'll be like, did you see this? This is a good idea. And I'll forward it to her on Instagram. Yes, I am so sorry. I'm sure I just inundate you like crazy. And I am a rooster as you are. So we're both morning people. We have 3 people on the team who are night owls. Cindy, Nell, and Vicky are just like total night people. But it's like 6 a.m. and I'm Voxering Jenna. But I also am Voxering her at midnight, never expecting her to respond. But I have to get the things out of my brain at the time that they're there or they disappear. And so I know you know this about me. So we have a lot of communication during the day. However, on the weekends, you do a great job because I have always told you, unless we're in the middle of launch or there's an emergency, I want all the people that work for me to be very unplugged on Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. And so you do a great job doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we communicate in a lot of different ways. I have tried really hard from kind of a logistical standpoint with our team. You love Voxer. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's great for kind of talking things out and processing things verbally, but as far as like a tracking, decisions or files or whatever, like is not. You
love Slack and I hate Slack.
I do like Slack. So I've tried to get our team on Slack a little bit more.
I'm going to nickname it something else like Sluck. It's
Sluck.
Yeah. It's like Slack sucks. Sluck.
Slack sucks.
I hate it.
I know you do.
Don't get it. I don't feel smart enough for Slack. I'm like, just let me push a button on Voxer and talk to everybody about all the things.
Here's the thing is that I feel like that's okay because it's my job to be able for you to work how you work best and for me to kind of sort through it and figure out the rest of it. So like, that's how you work best is sending me things on Instagram and Messenger. And so it's my job then to take.
It's like I take my whole jewelry box and I just dump it out in your lap every day. And I'm like, here it all is. All the things all tangled up. Will you fix it?
So a couple of things that I do, because I know that people are going to are going to ask, like, well, how do you sort
out her crap? Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple of tools that I use. So I like Asana.
You're speaking another language right now. Everybody listening to this podcast, I don't even know what she's talking about. Go ahead.
So I use Asana it's like a project management tool where if
Never seen it in my life.
On Instagram or Messenger, I have the app on my phone. So if you're sending me something in Boxer and I need to write it down, then I can do that really quick. I use Siri a lot. Hey Siri, remind me to do this at such and such time, which is, obviously a free thing on your iPhone. And then I work with to-do lists. I mean, every single day. I've got about 4 to-do lists on my desk right now. So sometimes I think it just takes, a lot of times I feel like, you hand me this jumbled mess of jewelry, but being able to kind of sort that out and untangle it and, figure it out is really satisfying at the end of the day. So I think you just have to have somebody in your project management role who is like super organized, great at problem solving, and kind of being able to decipher it into a different language.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I love it when people say satisfying. And my kids always say it. Like Ava will say, Mom, do you ever put like glue all over your hands? And isn't it like so satisfying to like peel it off? And I'm like, yes, it is. But it's not satisfying to work out all my things in my business. So thank you for being the one that spins all the plates and untangles all my jewelry and keeps all of the things straight. You're such a gift to me. I hope you know that.
Oh, likewise.
Yeah. So
I'm not good at mushy words.
I know. And you know what? Enneagram 3s are not good with our emotions either. So we'll stop there. But friends, I hope that this was helpful for you. And even if you're like a one-man band right now and you're like, there's never going to get a time when I get to having a project manager. Listen, I didn't think that I would ever be where I am as well either. I mean, up until a year and a half ago, I think, Jenna, it was just Vicky and I. And now we've got a team of, 7 who are here all the time. And in addition to our contractors. And so never say never. You just never know where your business is going to end up. And so I hope that this was useful. And even if you don't have a project manager, perhaps you just gained some sort of nugget that'll help you in communicating better with your spouse or better with your assistant or what have you. So Jenna, thank you for being here and love you so much.
Thanks for having me.
In terms of the podcast for next week, friends, we're going to be talking about how to pick a business coach. And I've shared with you why I think you need a business coach in the past, and we'll kind of review that. But we're going to actually on next week's episode talk more about how to pick the right one for you and your business and to determine if you even need one and what to look for. So that'll be next week here at the Jennifer Allwood Show. As always, thank you guys for being here. We would appreciate if you went over to iTunes and left Jenna and I a little love over there. And if you know somebody who could benefit from listening to that, to this podcast, please know that there's a way to forward this episode just at the bottom of your podcast app, and you can just push the little button and send it out to somebody who you think could use it. So until next week, stay creative, my friends. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you're here and that you just listen week in and week out and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, or if you're an Android user, go download the Stitcher app and you can subscribe there so that you know every single week when a new episode releases. Also, if you have any time to leave us a review, these reviews are super important in getting guests for the show and sponsors for the show. And so we'd appreciate it if you have just a second to leave us a review. That would be amazing. Thank you guys again for being here. And until next week, stay creative.